Hello, everybody. It's Jillian. So, when you actually want to do change where you confront everybody, you don't just confront one person or two people or a specific ethnicity, Democrat, Republican, you don't discriminate. When you confront people, you confront everybody. And then obviously you're not discriminating. And obviously the reason why we're in this matrix, so to speak, is because everyone has been programmed to destroy. Everybody has been programmed to destroy. And then you're told your destruction is love. You're told your destruction is caring. You're told that your destruction is empathetic. You're told so many things. You were told what love means. You were told what kindness means. You were told what doing right means, okay? And then when someone goes, wait, hold on a second. Are you sure this is correct? Are you sure that we're supposed to be attacking life the way we have been? But when you're told that certain life is bad, wrong, when you're told an ethnicity or a sexual orientation or a religion is wrong, not all religions, I'm talking about one specific religion. When you're told something in your body is wrong, someone made your body. When you're told something told something in your body is wrong, and then you go and attack that life. That's how the system has developed people to attack life, attack different, attack alien, right? And so holding up a mirror to not only the world, but also even to myself, it's difficult. I get so much hate mail from that. So much hate mail from giving you another option that you don't have to die someday, that cancer doesn't have to be deadly. When people hear that cancer doesn't have to be deadly, and they were told for many years it is, and you have to attack it, and you have to do this and that to it, oh my God, instead of saying like, oh my God, thanks for giving us a different way of looking at it, oh no, they attack that type of life of evolution. That's what is the trippiness of what's going on, is that you give people some other option to look at, another way of looking at things, and it's all based in science, if they would have read my book and paid attention. But when you give people an option for life, another evolution, then they go and attack it. And that's what they were taught by the medical, holistic, energy healing, politics, religion, and science, is that when new life comes, and that could be in your body, and it's developing energy, it has a voice, then you're told to attack the voice, attack evolution. You're told to oncologize something. Remember, oncology is only left up to a doctor. Okay? Oncology is only left up to the law enforcement when they're given specific directives. Okay? Oncology is only left up to the justice system when you want to attack someone's voice. I don't know how you can attack someone's voice unless they are very discriminatory and trying to cause harm by promoting riots and all that stuff. But when you just have a voice that you don't have to attack life, you don't have to attack your own life, you don't have to attack the life in your body, you don't have to attack somebody else, you don't have to attack energy, you just release it, and you stay home and stay safe, because there's some people out there who want to attack things that are different to them, and that is blasphemous. Then you see how the system has programmed people to attack the life in their body, to attack different, to attack a voice. And people were very correct in the beginning of the J world. They went right to the FBI, the CIA, they went to Interpol, they went to the justice system like the Ohio Attorney General. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. And so am I. I did exactly what I was supposed to do. If I want to produce change, if I want to plant a seed of change in the medical system, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not a patient, I'm not a nurse or any of those health professionals. So what do? I do a petition. When you want to produce change, you develop a petition. No different than what they did with me back then. Hey, John. Back then when they're like, oh God, shut Jillian down. She's causing harm to everybody. Da, 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 da. When you say you don't have to die from cancer, you just feed it and release it, not cure it. And that's blasphemous to someone who has seen their friends and family go through oncology, go through radiation and surgeries, and they come out less in energetic resilience, they age like 20 years. When someone says, hey, the emperor has no clothes, right? And everyone says, yeah, the emperor has clothes, and you're the one that says the emperor has no clothes, they want to attack the person that says the emperor has no clothes. They still want to see the emperor with clothes. They still want to believe, they want to stay in that belief system because they cannot even fathom that the system did not give them another option. That's what the world is facing. The world that you live in. When I'm uncured and I feel shit, I know exactly what an animal feels like when they're going through their own bullshit. I know the fear when you're going to the, remember I had the fear of going to the pediatrician. Because whenever we went there, it was always a shot. Or doing something else that I'm like, oh my God. So I remember as a kid, the fear of going to see Dr. Rosenthal, my pediatrician. So you can only imagine the fear of an animal going to the fucking vet when they get shit done to them. They're butchered and injected. And so when you finally are able to go back to the memories of the trauma, when you finally able to feel everything, the last 3 years, my system woke up from this whole climate change. I was off the J juice, really, when you think about it. And I felt fucking everything, and I remembered so many different things. I remember the fear, I remember the foreboding, I remember the feeling of anxiety, I remember all that shit. And then you're able to put yourself in the place of a child, a place of an animal, a place of a person going through some bullshit that they don't have to go through. Now, as far as children, it will take scientists to raise the children that will be relatively predictable, but in the beginning it may be unpredictable because so many different factors. And that's why the system is doing all these experiments to see what kind of factors that need to come into play to finally have the right kind of human who won't destroy shit. Right now, a lot of parents are dealing with unpredictable stuff and, factors that they're not aware of that they're going to have to be aware of. And it's going to be interesting to see how parents raise children that will survive this without rebelling so much and without destroying things. And you hope they survive that process. Okay? But I'll tell you, I know what people feel like, I know what children feel like, and I know what animals feel like when they're going to have something done to them. When I was in the military and they were giving me those injections and I had to voluntarily go and get like some kind of influenza injection, they had to have 3 people hold me down because my body knew it was not right getting something shot into me. It wasn't what's in it. That was not the issue because I wasn't an anti-V. I just didn't like the fucking stabbing thing. Purposely encouraging someone to have somebody stab them with a needle or cut them with a knife. My body knew that was not okay. So do these animals. They know it's not okay to get butchered and injected and use antibiotics on. They know it's not okay either, but they have no fucking voice. And so when I finally released all those demons of lack of empathy, the demons of destruction, the demons of get to be the top at the cost of everything, my demons of attacking, and then you're faced with your humanity, you're faced with remorse, you're faced with your humanity, you're faced with, oh my God, and that's what these vampire shows are trying to tell people. When you watch again Van Helsing, they will show you how evil was developed, how serial killers were developed. Okay? Can you get innovation without putting your hands on somebody? Well, the system knew that when you felt your pain of releasing the demons out of your body, and you have a different awareness, okay? And then you're different, and maybe you're inventive, who knows, right? Well, then they figured out how to put their hands on people and program them in a way to get them to develop habits. Even if they don't practice those habits right off the bat, those habits were instilled for at least 15, 16 years. Okay? Right, John. Okay, so that was when you're using corporal punishment on someone and you're not showing them violence and you're not showing them all and they're not seeing these images of destruction, so you're not attaching the violence to an image on TV and then developing a perception as an association and a trigger. See, that's the thing with scientists. They know that image has a lot of influence. They know that kinetic energy on the outside of the body and even the inside of the body has specific programming capabilities that you could develop a monster in society. So when a person is getting corporal punishment and they're watching Freddy Krueger movies and they're watching all these violent movies and they're getting beaten up by their mother or their father and somebody else out there, then that's how you develop a monster. When someone says something different, you have a religion, a political thought process. You have a spiritual belief system. And it was beaten into you by your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your pastor. And then finally you take on that belief system. You have been trained to be some kind of spiritual person. Then when someone talks against that spirituality and says maybe that doesn't have to be necessary, maybe that's contributing to some violence in our society, maybe we should question that. That person then associates beating somebody into submission. That's how you get, see, that's the thing about scientists. They understand nature and nurture. They understand the vision and the violence. You can program people to be anything you fucking want. You can program serial killers. You can program very inventive people. You can program bullies. You can program depressed people. And that's for all the science experiments out there. And so even though I had corporal punishment, and it wasn't so bad, but it was enough, there's a lot of psychological programming too, but we weren't allowed to watch violent movies. We didn't have the violent movies. We didn't have cable. We had, like, was it Channel 2, Channel 5, Channel 7, Channel 9, and maybe Channel 13. That was in the Bay Area at the time. I didn't even have cable. I didn't have MTV. My next door neighbor did. So when I go and wait, and pick up my next door neighbor to go walk to the bus stop, I would watch MTV for a minute with her and her sisters. And so I wasn't programmed to destroy other people. I wasn't programmed to destroy anything. I was programmed to challenge everything. To be completely counter fucking culture. But not just for the fucking hell of it, because when you see something that is wrong, and intrinsically it's wrong in your gut, okay? And people can have fucked up guts and think that someone who is anti-Christian or whatever, not saying that they're satanic, but someone doesn't believe in Christianity doesn't mean that your gut is telling people that it's, your gut is telling you that it's right to go and destroy them. But you act on your gut and then everything will come out in the wash. You release the fucking demons. And so people acted on their gut and their gut was programmed to destroy people who thought something different. And so, yeah, this whole J world is showing you how intolerant our society is with new information. They've been so homogenized. People have been so homogenized and stuck in their little small town, in their little small pond, that even something said that is different on the internet triggers them into fucking craziness. That's what we're seeing in our society. And it's really interesting to watch because that's how you see people have programmed their children to be that way. Intolerant, destructive. That's what I'm saying. When you raise a kid, are you willing to give up all your intolerances and all your biases, even in the sexual orientation? Because no one's going to teach these kids how to fucking do shit, when you think about it, like the pornography in the school system. They may introduce a lifestyle, but dressing up as a woman or a man is not going to fucking kill your kids. It's not going to hurt your children. Because they're going to encounter something like that out there in the world. And are they going to destroy it? Or are they going to be like, okay, that's the kind of person who thinks that they're a woman or a man or whatever. And then they're okay with it. It's no big fucking deal. But if mama makes a big deal out of it, if dad makes a big deal out of it, then that kid's going to be destroying things that are different. So it'll be interesting to watch how people raise their children in this society when there's so much diversity all over the internet, so much diversity in your community. People are being shoved together because places like Lahaina or whatever, Lahaina in Maui is being destroyed. So now they're going to take those people in Maui and take them into the mainland and put people who are diverse together. Okay? And so you're going to have to deal with your fellow man who's different. And you're going to have tolerance. If you can't handle what people say on fucking Facebook, and you can't handle images, like certain images that are not like destructive, like violent and explicit. If you can't handle a man wearing a dress on Facebook, I could only imagine what that kid's going to do when they see something like that out there in the world, when their parents have already instilled in them that that's wrong, that's bad. And so that's why the internet's there to it's a barometer to check the tolerance of people, to see how aggressive and radicalized they are. And then that shows you exactly the world you live in, and that's putting a mirror to your face. That was the intention of the system. Because yeah, when you're stuck in Saratoga, California, you're stuck in Canton, Ohio. Maybe you travel to different places. When you're stuck somewhere in England, in a small little town in England, and so you don't see too much diversity. And if there is diversity, it gets chased away. It gets destroyed. It gets ridiculed. It gets bullied. And so then that diversity leaves because they can't survive people attacking them. And so then when you take away all the boundaries and take away all the planning of going to a different place, and you put all the differences all over fucking Facebook, then you see how people deal with evolution. Oh, it's crazy to watch how people deal with evolution. But evolution is needed. We cannot stay the same the way we have before because it has been destructive. It is destructive. And so you realize I figured out for myself, the system does not want me to looking after people, right? I'm not trying to be a doctor to anyone. What I'm introducing is that the poop is a fucking software. It holds all the viruses, all the trauma, all the different microbes that are damaged. It holds programming that causes glitches. Okay? I can't tell you what the glitches are except for diagnosable conditions, but I can't say glitches also are in, sexual orientation or something else. I couldn't tell you that. But when people go get stuff treated, it's because they can't handle the energy of release. Because they hold so much of the diverse programming in their colon, in their immune system. And so they've got to release it somehow. And so I figured out how to release my demons and build up the substance. Okay? And so what John said was, me too, in prison, the HEPC immunization needle broke off in my shoulder muscle on entry. I believe it. All right? And so you realize that I figured out for myself, okay? And I'm no different than anybody else. I'm not any more special. If I were to keep this to myself and not tell anyone what I was doing, and I ended up staying young, not dealing with all this cancer disease and chronic illness and all that shit, and I figured out how to feed myself, and people are expecting me to age out and look like I'm aging out, and then they see me 20, 30 years later and I'm the same person, they're going to think I'm some fucking demon, some devil. They're going to think I'm something to destroy. When everyone else in my peer group has aged out, has lost, has too much of the fat, not enough collagen, or not enough, and they look like their parents when their parents were in their 60s and 70s, and I'm looking like this in 20 years from now, they're going to be like, what the fuck? Why didn't you tell us what you were doing back then? And then they'll think I'm some kind of alien, some kind of vampire. No, I'm telling you exactly what I'm doing every fucking step of the way, because I know how religious people can be. I know how spiritual people can be. I know how people who are not really aware of science and education and whatever, I know how they'll make up a story about me or anyone that's different. And they'll develop a story where there's a good guy and the bad guy, and I'm the bad guy, and they have to go and destroy the bad guy. So I'm not going to play that fucking game of being someone's demon in their little fairy tale, or someone's, savior in their fairy tale. No, I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm doing, as gross as it fucking is, and I'm going to do what the system has told me to do, which is go to your authority if you want change. Or if someone is bugging you and they're crossing boundaries, you go to your authority. You don't handle any kind of justice, what you think is justice. You don't handle any kind of shit on your own. You do exactly what they did in the beginning. You go to the CIA, you go to the FBI, you go to Interpol, you go to the justice system, and you lodge a complaint. And then you let the system figure out who's breaking the law and who isn't. And so what did I do? I went to the AMA and said, here's the fucking change. I wrote a book. I make no claims. You don't want to be cured, but salt has a curative effect, but it's very temporary. And then you get constipated. That's the proof that salt and water is a cure. But what is a cure to? Well, it constipates you. And some people have found relief. But again, you don't want to cure anything because it'll come back harder. When people cure their cancer with salt and water, minus my world, well, they feel great for a minute and then shit comes back, or it shape shifts. It converts into something else, into another disease. Because it was so cured, it wasn't allowed to leave the body, and so it still plagues the person. It still tortures the person. But they made it stronger because it had time to gain the substance and develop an arsenal to come back harder against you. That's why you have to release the fucking demons out of your body. You feed the cancer, whatever it is. I mean, you activate it, you feed it, and you fucking release it. All right? And so the system does not want me to act like a doctor, because I'm not a fucking doctor, because it's too much responsibility when people can't handle their own predisposed issues. Okay, that's why they have a doctor system. That's why there's a call center. So many barriers so you don't inundate that doctor with all of your issues. When you have a license when you have a license to attack life with FDA approved protocols based on the attention, you are not going to do anything to reverse that until the system says you can reverse that intention. That's why I asked the system to please reverse the intention, because I have friends and family that are fucking dying and they won't listen to me because I'm not their fucking doctor. So I'm going to ask the system, can you find a way to give them that kind of latitude if they present you with a request? I'm not going to get an answer. It'll be up to the patient to ask for their life back. It's not up to me. I'm planting the seed out there. Just like you're all planting the seed back then by saying, no, Jillian's killing everybody. So we're going to plant a seed that Jillian's killing everybody and let the system work it out. And they let the Ohio Attorney General work it out. They let Dr. Phil and me and all the people work it out. They let all the different justice places work it out. But that's what you guys did around me. As I planted a seed, you planted a seed, I planted a seed, you planted a seed, and then let the fucking system work it out. And so that's what people are doing. When people are expressing their shock and horror that what they thought was what is not what is what. But whenever you introduce change, that's what you're going to get. That's why not everybody is cut out for introducing change. I understand it. But remember, when you share my shit, it's not you speaking, it's me speaking. I've already been conditioned for this fucking shit of pushback and all that stuff. So developing a petition to raise awareness of the doctor system and give people a platform to work from, that was my plan. And again, I know what I'm up against, okay? I'm not just a fucking idealist thinking I'm going to change the world today, okay? Change is gradual. I'm a realist mixed with idealism, and I know the reality. I know what people are up against. I know what I'm up against with my trolls. And I know that they hope that I don't ever succeed, but I could give a shit. I already saved myself. I'm just giving the chance to my friends and family to save themselves. I already know you're not going to save yourself, troll. You can't wait to shit on evolution and life. Okay? So, I mean, you already expressed what your desires are. You don't want to live indefinitely. You don't want to get off your drugs and alcohol. And you definitely like to shit on evolution. Well, goddamn, how much can you prove that? But hey, the more you prove that people should die someday and no one deserves to live, the more I'm going to say, well, maybe that isn't so. And then we'll have a birthing of a new evolution from that positive, that negative, and all relative to which side is positive, negative, relative to your belief system. But when you have two things going like this, you will develop evolution from that. That's the egg and the sperm coming together and developing an offspring. So your resistance and my persistence, we will develop a baby together. And who knows what that baby's going to fucking look like, okay? All right, so evolution doesn't rise up. Evolution is gradual. That was my intention for the petition. I absolutely have no expectation I will gain traction in the next 30 years. If you don't plant a seed, nothing will grow. We're in a depopulation agenda. We're in climate change, regardless if you think it's contrived or if it's a cycle. We're in climate change. Everything's going to fucking change, and new ideas will come out of this climate change. And so the medical and the holistic system will not retract anything they ever did, because that would be counterproductive to their intentions. Their intentions is to attack life and stop life from evolving. They want to be cured, and then you know the end with cure is entropy and then destruction. But the medical and the holistic system does not want people to evolve. They want them cured. And if it ends up in cured rest in peace, like the morgue, and palliative care and hospice, so be it. That's what their intention is. That's what they hold on to. That's what they will eventually that's what will eventually happen to them and their children. And so now you have a business model for the future. And people can do things on their own if they think they can. Or they can ask their doctor. That's why I developed the petition. I'm not looking for a bunch of signatures. I mean, I could give a shit. Thank you, John, for signing it. But I can give a shit if it has one signature or a billion of it. Now you have something to show to your friends and family who are doctors and nurses. Now you have something to bring to your general practitioner or to your specialist or to your allergist. Now you have something tangible. That's not like in a book we get to wade through a bunch of, whatever my lead in it. You have the actual straight to the point, what my intention is and what my perceived problem is. It's starvation. And people are starving and they're falling apart. And you want your doctor to help you bring your life back. That's it. That's all it is. I'm not trying to cure cancer. I don't want to cure fucking anything. I want you to feed it and release it. I don't want you to attack anything. I don't want you to go and destroy anything. I want you to feed the things that are causing you harm, and I want you to release them. What's harm? Whatever energy that you can't handle. That's why there's block and delete on Facebook, because you have so many antibodies want to go and attack you. Why do the animals want to attack you? Because they think you're the enemy. With whatever perception they figured out in their head. And so you have to have an immune system to protect you. And that's the food supply that will help you build up your immune system and give you a good bone structure and collagen and fat. But you see how the system has radicalized people and turned them into antibodies. And then you have to be a strong person to deal with all those things that are trying to attack you, all those antibodies out there. And people have so many antibodies in their worlds, that's when they get heart attacks and strokes and seizures, because their system isn't releasing. And so what does it do? It blocks their arteries and capillaries and causes major vital organ failure. When you have so much of those antibodies stuck in your world, in your body, in your mind, in your spirit, in your house, in your friends, in your family, when everyone's telling you should die someday, it's going to fucking happen because you'll believe it. That's when the antibodies have taken control of your body, your mind, and your spirit, and your whole circle of friends and family. And then people die from heart attacks and strokes. And they die from lung failure, liver failure, kidney failure. Because of all the antibodies in their body, mind, and spirit, and in their society that they circulate in. That's why people die. Because they're starving, and they're full of antibodies. And so, when I want to break it down even simpler, you're starving because you don't have enough electrolytes to push everything through and out. You don't have enough food to reinforce your bones and your heart and your liver and your lungs or anything. You can't release the demons. You're told not to cough. You're given cough suppressants, whether pineapple juice or some kind of NyQuil. That's how people die. And so now you have a business model for the future. And people can do things on their own, or they can ask their doctor. My book is out there, and so are my videos, and I make no claims in my book. The system will help people stay alive way in the future, when all the conditions are right. And so they're not going to save you right now. You have to save yourself. If you can't save yourself, then the system will do what it needs to do to help you feel okay while you're exiting out of this world. But again, I did this petition to make a point. I can put my money where my mouth is, and I have the last 7 years. I wrote at least 3 books. Okay? I wrote at least 3 books. No matter how much you think my writing sucks, I could give a shit. I put my money where my mouth is, and I'm learning shit, and I'm doing things on my own, and I don't need a professor or an academia to tell me what I should believe or what I should do. I will take the foundation they gave me, and I will evolve it. That's exactly what evolution is. It's not fucking regurgitation. But many people out there have been programmed to regurgitate. So there's no evolution. So don't attack me. Go back to your system of creationism and regurgitation and leave me the fuck alone. But I will still keep speaking on my Facebook because that's my world. It's my right. But I definitely get people to give me their opinion about whatever. And that's fine. You have a right to say what you got to say. All right? I'm not going into your groups or into your chats and trying to tell you to shut up, I could say what you got to say. Do what you got to do. Whatever makes you feel good without harming somebody else. If that's what makes you feel better, releasing whatever demons in your mind about me and everything else, then do what you have to do. If you have to write to me and say whatever you fucking say, well, the FBI is watching what you're writing, and that's fine. And it's being collected. But, because I have I have a program where it saves emails, so you can see. So if anything in there is like, whatever. But anyways, so say what you gotta say. If that's what's gonna help you not harm somebody else, or harm yourself, then say what you gotta say and release your demons. Through writing, through saying I'm the demon, that's fine. Do what you gotta do. But do not harm anyone else because you have demons that you're dealing with. Do not harm yourself. And if you feel like you're gonna harm yourself or somebody else, go see a doctor, go see a professional. Because that's not okay, is to physically harm somebody else. All right. And so it's easy to resist something, but it's very hard to develop another business model. And so I can resist everything all day, but to develop a business model, people have a hard time even maintaining their own fucking life, much less develop a business model. All right. And so then now you realize through the whole J world, when we did those waterfalls in the beginning, people were releasing so much crazy ass programming, all those hormones that were stuck inside, all those colony forming units that were taking over their body, causing them diagnosable conditions, infections. They were seeing so many things in their poop. They were seeing parasites. They were seeing microbes. They were seeing things. I saw these things that look like corn nuts. Like little corn nuts with these little squigglies, look like an egg with a bunch of sperm all around it. Yeah, that's the micro and the macro. Just because you don't have a baby doesn't mean that you aren't producing so many juvenile cells that will eventually turn into cancer and destroy you. So people were releasing all of those potential cancer cells out of their body in the beginning. Can you imagine how many people actually averted specific diagnoses because they released a lot of those demons in the beginning of the J world? And they were examining their poop. Absolutely. That's where everything resides. That's your programming. That's everything. And so your poop is a software. And it has to be updated. It has to be updated. You release the demons of yesterday. And then you eat food to replace those demons. And when the climate shifts and causes growth in some parts of the body, then you sneeze when there's too much growth from that climate shift. And then you eat food to feed that energy to replace what was used. That's thermodynamics. That's life. Okay? And so your poop is a software and your body is the hardware. When the software holds on to so many viruses and those viruses cause glitches to your hormones, and then you circulate in your trauma because everything is trapped inside. And so yes, you might be circulating in what you do for a living and you have a specific programming. You get up every day, do what you got to do, and you go to sleep and you eat and poop and all that stuff. But there's also, along with that, there's trauma in the body. And so when the body wants to save itself, it releases the trauma and keep the good stuff. It releases the curses and keeps the gifts. And then you have the ability to take on new information. And when some people are so far gone and they're hearing this information, oh yeah, it's going to suck. Let me tell you, not everybody can do what I'm doing. Not everybody can do that. And they know it and they hate me for it. I'm sorry, but somebody's got to evolve our society. Because how much suffering is out there? If you're going to fucking suffer, make it work to your benefit, right? But that's not the perception. That's not the purview of a lot of people out there who are stuck in being cured and then destroying themselves. And the system watches them for them trying to destroy other people. Remember, I've already been vetted out by the Ohio Attorney General, the CIA, the FBI. If I was that dangerous, the FBI already did their games they did when I went in there. They already played the good cop, bad cop. I understood what was going on. And I just said what I had to say. And they made me stressed out. They were just in my face, not literally in my face, but yeah, there's a woman in there. Women can definitely be brutal if they need to be. And they know how to get other girls, especially if they've been trained to do it, to be stressed under a situation and say what they got to say. But I'm not a fucking cult leader. I don't want to destroy anyone. I'm not a cult leader. I definitely don't want to have a following of people who worship me. what I'm doing, everybody can do. If you cut your nails, and if you can't, you ask your fucking doctor to help you do it. That's it. But it's food and releasing the poop. That's really basically it. That's not that special, right? But you need milk, you need meat, you need eggs, you need fruits, you need vegetables. And I drink cream with mango juice from the Naked brand. So that's like, getting the fruit and the cream. And then I eat hamburgers. Okay, and I have some cheese. And I don't even do a lot of fruits and vegetables. My fruit is in my juice. I don't even do a lot of vegetables. You don't need a lot of vegetables. What you need is the meat and the milk and the cheese and the eggs. And you need, like I had the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So I had the nut proteins, I had the jelly, which is like the fruit, and I have the gluten, which is the bread. Okay? That's what has carried me through. Having all those ice cream bars in July, during that last climate change, that fucking saved my ass. Oh yeah, I felt some stuff. I was tired, I had to release demons, I had headaches, but I survived them. And now everything is great. My body actually looks pretty proportional. I can wear shorts that I wore before, and I didn't like how I looked. I looked kind of weird. Now my body is proportional. I can wear shorts, and my thighs, my calves, my belly, my chest is all proportional. Because I have figured out how to maintain my adaptation, and I needed to gain the weight. So I had something to convert when there is a huge climate shift coming in. Okay? You can't get away with being skinny in this fucking society. And so when the software, like your poop, holds on to so many viruses, and those viruses cause glitches to your hormones, and then you circulate in your trauma, then you get glitches. That's how it works, which is why Bill Gates understood everything. Bill Gates was like playing video games, developing proteins to go and attack certain proteins in the body, because it's evolution or something. It's like a synthetic immune system. That's all that the VACCI and ESs are, just a synthetic immune system. People say, oh, I have an immune system. Well, you're taking your pills and your powders and supplements and detoxes and your ivermectins. Then obviously you don't trust your immune system, or you're going to be taking all the remedies out there. So whatever Bill Gates does as far as his therapies is no different than those taking the ivermectins. All right, so that's why people are laughing at those who are anti-V, because all your remedies and surgeries and everything else you're doing is doing the same fucking thing, if not worse. And so you realize the doctors will never tell you this, because they will only test your disease or treat your disease, but never have you release it unless it's surgery or liposuction, and then more trauma to the body. I don't expect my petition to ever make any traction, because we're in a depopulation agenda, and I can't convert or save people. I can only offer information. And they'll probably do what I'm doing in the future, or behind closed doors. How many people out there, how many elitists out there, how many Hollywood people, or how many people that are watching me, that are movers and shakers in places, are watching what I'm doing? And how many of them are going to do it on their own and not tell anybody? Or only tell their circle of friends and family that what they're doing? Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there. Because I have been trained by the right people, by the right scientists, by the right environment, Silicon Valley. Okay, so I've been trained by the fucking best. And I have found the best in their fields. Whether I went to school with them or I dated them. But I found the best out there because I was attracted to intelligence and intellectual capability. I was attracted to those who were movers and shakers in their world. And I glommed onto that information and I sucked it out. Sucked it out literally, but I completely was like a sponge. And I soaked up all that information. And then I put it to use. I found ways to use what they've taught me, what they've said. I figured out how to use it. And any specific terms that I was not familiar with, I went and Googled it and I researched it and I studied it. And I picked it apart and then I kept it in the back of my mind, and then it came out. And all the things I learned back in Silicon Valley, back in the Bay Area, back in Sacramento, even from when I was raised as a child, all has then helped me figure out this whole process. And then all the learning process back in 2018. Okay? And so I can only offer information. That'll probably do in the future, way in the future, or even behind closed doors. But they won't offer it to the masses because that would be counterproductive to the intention. And how many doctors want to oversee anyone who bitches and complains about their symptoms 24/7? Some people cannot handle penis suffering. Penis suffering. And so that's a kind of worm. That's the kind of a worm some doctors don't want to open up. Shit. I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to let people fucking laugh on that one. Okay? Some people can't handle a penis suffering. So that's kind of a worm some doctors don't want to open up. Other people can, and I'm sorry if you can't. I'm going to leave that. I don't really care. That's going to be funny. And so I did the petition to make a point. And I wrote to the head of the American Medical Association, just like you went to Interpol, FBI, CIA, and the Ohio Attorney General. And when you say you hope I don't succeed, then you are asking the system not to help people. And I'm fine with that. If you're fine with your friends and family not getting the help around getting on the food supply, then that's what you want to happen. Okay? That's what a system is doing when it's what it's doing. You are saving people to death. Your belief system is to save people to death. That's what the system wants you to do. And you were playing right into that. Okay? So that's why we're in a great reset. I could give a shit if you believe me what I say or not say. But I have no commitment everybody gets it. The right people will get it, and the other people will not, and the system will do whatever it does. And so I put my money where my mouth is, and so, let me just go back here real quick about, hold on. Trial by fire, earth and air. Trial by fire, earth, air, and water. So we're in a great reset, right? We're in a great reset. And that means that we're going to be going through trials with earthquakes, trials by fire, all the different wildfires, okay? We're going to be going through trials through the air, because all those chemtrails and all the rain, well, same thing, air, the chemtrails, the elements that are influencing the conductivity of the environment, and then the water, the storms, the floods, all of that. So we're in an apocalyptic scenario right now. We're in the apocalypse when you think about it. When there are apocalyptic scenarios, there's always going to be something out there that's going to be the plant, to be the seed, to be planted, to give hope for the future. All of you can be that for your friends and family and for your Facebook community. All of you can. Okay, what I'm saying probably has been said before in other times. But when you look at the medical holistic system, and you look at the surgery system, and you look at all of the remedies world, it's not to promote life. Because they're systematically taking food away from you. They're systematically causing trauma to you. Systematically taking away life out of your body. Systematically remedying away your ability to release. So you hold all that life in, and then it supernovas, it becomes too diverse. And then bad behaviors and traumas still stay in the body. And so when you look at the system for a whole, for what it's doing, it's not promoting longevity. And so when you realize that's what the system is doing, and I studied it the last 7 fucking years, I realized what the system was doing, and then coupling that with the conspiracy world, with what they're telling you as far as the depopulation and all the green machine stuff, then you couple that together, then you see the bigger agenda, then you offer people a different model, and that model will take traction when the time is right. But not right now. It's too early to go and save the world because the system plans to take away a lot of people. That's the system regulating your immune system. You have an immune system regulation, so does your society has an immune system regulation. Only the strong will fucking survive. And so I'm trying to offer you, how do you be strong? Well, you need the food. You don't need any more trauma. You don't need anyone attacking your life and your evolution. You need to feed the information and release the excessive damage information. That's exactly what I'm promoting. And that's the complete antithesis of the medical, holistic, energy healing, surgical system. And all the mommy and me groups and all the people who want to have children. Because when you have so many kids, people who have kids understand that they get these gestational and other types of diseases of deficit. Because your kids now hold the substance that you would have had. They hold your potential future. It could have been you, but now it's in your kid. Now your kid has to release their own demons that they inherited from you. That's what I'm advocating, is that when you realize what's going on, you may not be able to save your kids. You might. Okay? But it's not guaranteed, because you don't know what kind of predisposed issues they hold inside. You don't know how. You don't know everything. And so when it's really above your pay grade, when it's really out of your hands, you have to elicit the help of a professional. And you tell them what you're doing. Because you don't want to be held liable in case something happens and something doesn't survive because you thought you were doing okay on your own. And so that's what I'm saying. That's what the petition is there for people who want to petition their doctor to help them do stuff. And you tell them, I'm just feeding my kid food. But they have to learn how to blow their nose. Okay? They have to learn a lot of things. And so, give me 1 second. Oh, Lordy. So life is not a medical condition. That's what I said even to that petition. Life is not a medical condition to be destroyed. It's to be released if it's too excessive, too numerous. And so, when you think about it, now that you see where I'm going with that, now I'm going to go back to the bottom and go from the top. Because this has to be said. You guys had to hear it. Can you imagine the fear of the animals when they are dropped off at the vet to get butchered and injected while the owner is shopping, completely oblivious? See, when people don't realize that's what they do, and they love animals, they say that I'm harming animals, and they love animals, but that's what they do. They don't know how to take care of an animal, and so they just have the animal to play with, and then when it starts breaking down, they don't know what to do, so they go bring it to the vet. The vet causes more trauma, and they get the animal back. The animal can't speak anymore because the vet gave them so much medication, basically zombified them. So the animal is screaming inside, but they can't scream because they've taken away the voice. And that animal suffers. That animal fucking suffers. People don't want to fucking see that. So I'm going to make you see it. Can you imagine the fear the animals have when they are dropped off at the vet to get butchered and injected while the owner is shopping and completely oblivious? Can you imagine the fear in the farm animals when it's slaughter day? Can you imagine the fear your children are when going under the knife or going to the pediatrician, getting injected or getting other things done to them? Can you imagine the fear of the cells when antibiotics are shoved down the throat of their children, human and animals? Can you imagine the fear of the animals forced to deal with kids who pull their tail and ears, and the parent just laughs and says, good boy for not defending yourself. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Can you imagine the fear of the child when the parent uses aggressive corporal punishment and then uses antibiotics showing love? Can you imagine the feelings of hunger because that child is starving because you, mom, have weight issues, too skinny or too obese? Can you imagine the suffering of all animals and children owned by parents who have no idea what they're doing and allowing them to be used as experiments in the vet medical surgical system? And so they think if they don't use the system, they're better doing it on their own and then fuck up their kid even more. That's why I have a petition. Can you imagine sitting in that animal child's shoes for a day? Sit in their shoes for a whole week, a whole day, and then look at the future of the world they live in. This is why we need to reconsider owning someone else or an animal, because that's all slavery. But we're still in a transition. But you have to know, but having a kid is like having your own little slave. It's like having a cult. Okay, because you are the cult leader. You're the all-knowing mother that was taught by the system how to destroy yourself and how to destroy your family when the time is right. Okay? And so you are advocating the slavery system, and you claim you want to be free. Freedom starts with the parents. And I see many parents enslaving their kids, grandkids, and friends, family, and animals. You are not advocating freedom. That is why it's now extremely hard to watch the world, because you're watching slavery and watching people get butchered, and then the suffering, the exponential suffering, and then doing it all over again. No matter what, all kids are suffering under the weight of their parents' ignorance, because they know they can't do it on their own. They have to have the medical system, and the grandmothers cannot wait to get their hooks into those grandchildren. And if your animal has been damaged or you have a rescue animal, the animal is suffering too. Because when that animal starts evolving, you will stop the evolution. Right there tells you children and animals are suffering exponentially, and no one intends to keep them alive, just making their exit easier for everybody. And so when you parent want to have an intention to keep your kid alive, and they have to go through evolutionary symptoms, the system is going to try to stop you from doing that. Okay, so even though you have an intention to keep them alive with food and having to release the demons, to what extent are you allowed to allow them to release demons without some kind of medical intervention? And that's what you're going to be up against. So you may not be able to save your kid because that's the thing. I mean, there's spies everywhere and all that stuff, and that's why you have to let the system know what you're doing so you don't get held liable in case things don't go the way you expect. Okay, you don't have what it takes to keep something alive because you haven't even figured out to keep yourself alive. And even though your intentions are good, you have to tell the system, okay, I have food, there's food here. They have symptoms. They have this. They have that. I want them to blow their nose and sneeze and cough. Okay, and this is what's going on. And then you can talk to that professional to figure out a game plan so you don't make anyone suffer around you too much and you don't have a surprising outcome that you wouldn't expect. Okay? But you have to know the system does not want to promote energy release and they don't want to promote life indefinitely. The system's about systematically taking life away. All right? So you have to figure out how to strategize everything. And you can't promise them a good life because you can't guarantee they will survive their childhood or this environment or your predisposed issues. And so they become a slave to your family and religion and politics. That's why I gave you that petition to use, so you have some kind of platform to work from. I hope you realize why I use the metaphor of stacking skulls. If you don't intend to live indefinitely, mother, your children are food for the vampires. Why do I use these vampire terms? Because that's exactly what's going on. People keep people on tap to have children so they can, it's like when the vampire was sucking on their own arm so they can get some kind of relief because of whatever. It's like having children. When you intend to have so many children, you're sucking the life off of something that's part of you. Okay? There's so many metaphors in these vampire movies, and when you realize what society is and you can see what they're saying in these movies, and you look at your friends and your family and even what you do, you realize, yeah, everyone out there is a fucking vampire. And so when you think about it, the animal rescue associations might be saving animals' lives, but they are selling, because yeah, you do a rehoming fee. You pay $100 or whatever it is, or $20. But they are selling damaged animals who will inevitably suffer, but also be destroyed by the owner and become desensitized. So if only it only took one animal I owned myself for me to learn my lesson. Animals are not to be owned by anyone. I choose not to collect souls and skulls. You think your animal has a great life? Nope. Because I tell you, the freedom to be able to run in and out, the freedom to be able to go and explore stuff in a safe way, the freedom to eat when you want, the freedom to, do animals get that in a house? No, because everybody has a schedule. But like, oh, they're part of the family. Yeah, when the family destroys itself, they destroy their own animals too. Some will try to find a way to keep them alive, but there's no guarantee in this environment, and you don't really know what's in the genetic line, and how much suffering are you willing to endure, and how much suffering can your kids endure watching the animal try to stay alive during their evolutionary process. And then that's the thing. And so, do animals have a great life? Well, not really. If they could speak, I would doubt they would support your perception because they're told to perform. And I know, everybody has great intentions. So did I. Could I be there for my animal 100% of the time, all the time in the beginning? No, I was working. I was doing a bunch of stuff. And then I was home. But I had things to do. Okay? And then you look at your environment and the world you live in, and then you look at even, let me tell you, the optimal place for an animal would be a huge game preserve that is cordoned off. And there are different shelters with air conditioning or heat that they can go in and hang out and then come out. They could eat food, and then there's visitors. And then, as far as I don't really want spay or neuter. And so, then you will, and then you'll let them do what they do. Let Darwin take over. And you don't treat them, because then when you treat them, they'll cause more babies. That's what happens when you treat anything. It causes babies, juvenile cells. And then you let the system control that population, but also give them the great life, but also figure out how not, well, see, that's the thing. Then that person gets desensitized because they see life and they see a bunch of death. And then how do you balance out that? And that's what I'm saying. Maybe it takes a psychological eval to watch over a bunch of animals that will inevitably suffer and die because of genetic predisposed issues. And you keep treating it and traumatizing it, it makes it worse. Yeah, it's a no-win situation when you think about it. And so, but you see what the situation, see why the system is, see why the government has such a hard time trying to convey this. Because all of these vampiristic ways are built into the population. So you think your animal has a great life? Not. If they could speak, I doubt they would support your perception. Instead of selling damaged animals, Humane Society, why don't you leave food and shelter in areas away from communities and let them roam free and then let Darwin take over? Let them be free. Make sure humans stop trying to save animals. But if humans are vampiristic, they will go and enslave an animal, which is why you really need game preserves with food and shelter during cold. Yeah, so I already said that. All right, and so we got that. All right, now, yeah, humans don't have respect for life. Once you wake up to everything, once you wake up to what they feel, oh my God. And I'll go into the next thing. And so now you know why the World Economic Forum does not want you to own anything, because you have no respect for life. When people own a person, place, or thing, it's disposable and subject to harm. Since you're not going to be around anyways, according to you, it's easy to destroy a person, place, or thing and then leave with absolutely no connection or commitment to the life or quality of life. It's all for show or filling a void in your life. Look at how many people sell their house, which has been destroyed. My husband and I went house hunting one time, and there's this house somewhere that was so destroyed on the inside. There was holes in the wall, everything. Some things were even falling apart. There was no maintenance to that house. And so what they do, they just up and leave that house and get the sales agents to try to sell a damaged house. And they go into another house that was built, that was ready-made and built. That's a disposable consumerist lifestyle. When you keep upgrading instead of maintaining and reinforcing your current situation, you keep having to upgrade. And that's a disposable thought process. When you keep going for the latest fashion, for the latest baubles, the latest art projects, disposable. When people own a person, place, or thing, it's disposable and subject to harm. And so look at how many people sell their houses which have been destroyed. Everything is disposable to them, even friends, family, and animals in life. That's why we're in a great reset. Every entitlement is destructive. And so the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab, he was correct. He understands humans. The whole system has studied humanity. When you don't own something, you have a respect for life, because there will be parameters of how to take care of something so you don't destroy it. And so even in this house, even though my husband is paying the mortgage on it under his name, my name is on it too. But even then, I don't feel, I own it, yes, a name, but how do I feel like I'm owning it? By taking care of it, okay? By taking care of it, by putting respect into it. And so until I'm able to put respect into something, I don't deserve to really own it when you think about it. When you build something from the ground up, you fucking own it, and then you take care of it because you have appreciation for where it started. I own my relationship, and we built it from the ground up with nothing. And so not only do I own my part in the relationship, but I have a fucking respect for it to maintain it and make sure it stays alive and it stays relatively cancer-free. Jeez. Oh my God. I need water. Hold on. Empathy is when you can stand in the shoes of yourself, your children, and your animals, and you can feel the pain, and then you won't have to have children or animals, or even a lot of friends, because there's too much pain to endure. That's called fatigue. In the surgical system, fatigue is when the surgeon is not having empathy for their patients anymore, and that's also in the veterinary system. And then you won't have a bleeding heart. Then you won't be a bleeding heart liberal or conservative who is all about love, love, love. And so that's the thing. is that when you finally stop entertaining so much pain and suffering all the time, and then you get desensitized to it, then you won't be a bleeding heart person anymore, because you realize you can't save things, and taking on people's pain and stuff and living from that and trying to save them to death is only destructive. And so I can feel for the animal, and I can feel for the child, and realize that we don't necessarily need to have animals or children that we own, because we'll try to save it to death because of all that oxytocin. And so, when you have kids now, great. But if your kids finally, can save themselves, and you can help them, save themselves and all that, and they're faced with having a child, I don't know. That's the system is trying to figure out. And so we'll see. I don't know. I don't freaking know. And so the whole thing with Maui and Lahaina, well, you know how that works. And so, yeah, I'm not a sisterhood to anyone, all right? I'm not a sister to anyone. And when you think about it, why the dark one in Van Helsing is depicted as female, and why is Vanessa Van Helsing a female? Because women will make or break the life. They will either set their children free from rest and peace, or they will conscript her family into indentured servitude and be a temporary person. And so, yeah, when you aim that you're not going to live indefinitely, and you're just the grandma that's going to die someday, and you don't intend to live indefinitely, what kind of future does your kid have? You have to have an intention to live indefinitely. So when humans don't feel their own pain, they won't feel the pain of anything else. That's what drug and alcohol does. That's what herbs do. That's what remedies do. When you are not connected to your own pain, you will do things to yourself. That's what all the self-harm people, when they cut themselves, they are so disconnected to their own pain, so they cut themselves, and then they take on animals and people around them to suck the life out of. And everything is disposable. It's like, take an animal and you put your mouth into it and suck the blood, throw the animal away. Take another animal, suck the life out of it, throw it away. Take another animal, suck the life out of it, throw it away. Take another animal, suck the life out of it, throw it away. That's what having so many animals, like a revolving door, is like, sucking the life out of things and then throwing it away when it's not useful, when it finally is sucked dry. And so when people have been traumatized, someone sucked the life out of them and didn't give them the opportunity to become whole again. They were vampired by somebody. That's what being a victim means. When you're vampired by someone that you feel that you can't come back from it. They took so much of your life, your energy. They took so much from you. And that's what when people get sexually abused, when they get harmed by someone who hits them, domestic violence, when they get bullied and they can't survive under the weight of that bully stuff, then they feel like they're a victim. And then when they're sucked dry, then they're going to go and find the energy out there to go make them whole again. But they don't realize all the energy out there, when they're trying to find the energy that's missing from their life, it's not going to make them whole again. They'll just pass on the victimization to somebody else. They'll vampire somebody else and do the same thing that was done to them, but in a different way. That's what trolls do out there. They have been vampired by somebody. Somebody victimized them. Now they're under the influence. Now they're seeing therapists or other things. And then they have to go and suck the life out of somebody else, whether it's me or anyone else in their vicinity. It doesn't matter. They don't discriminate when it comes to sucking the life out of people. It could be someone they're resisting or someone that they love and allegedly respect, or their own children. Okay? And so then they have to be under the influence. Because when you finally face who you are in this world, when you're finally off the drugs and the alcohol and all the crazy ass sex and stuff, and you face your humanity, it's a lot to come back from. That's what they're showing you in the vampire shows, when they finally turn them into human, and they're looking at who they were, they're looking at the people that they victimized, and that person is still stewing from being victimized by that person. That's what they're showing you in Van Helsing. Okay? You aren't a monster, but you're made to be a monster because of all the people who vampired you way back when. You don't have to be a monster. You don't have to bully me. You don't have to bully anyone else. You don't have to suck the life out of things that you have no intention of keeping around. But again, that was built into the population. You can't force convert people to finally realize what they're doing, because it's normal to them and everyone around them supports that whole ideology. And so then when the pain comes and the pain returns, then people get on alcohol, they get on drugs, they have a lot of sex, and they have a lot of distractions. Because to face your humanity, it takes work and it's painful. So when humans don't feel their own pain, they won't feel the pain of anything else. That's what drugs and alcohol do. That's what herbs do. That's what remedies do. When you're not connected to your own pain, you will do things to yourself. You'll do things to your animals and children and friends and family you would not ordinarily do. That's why humans have become monsters, and not by choice, because they're so disconnected from their own pain. They don't think twice. Allowing someone to commit painful acts on themselves and their children and animals, that's why we're in a great reset. We get to look in the mirror all over Facebook, if we're willing to look. When you finally feel the pain of your own predisposed issues, you'll know exactly where I'm coming from. Real empathy, you won't own an animal or a child, because you almost have to be unfeeling to deal with the amount of suffering when it comes to growing up. You have to be a monster to own something or raise something so that they can survive. And then you have no control what happens when the immune system is out of whack and you can't force them to deal with life. And then you have to give that child and animal to a doctor death, and will get further traumatized. And then when that animal dies, you'll get another animal again, because it's just too painful. And you hope your offspring survives the environment, and then predators are out there, and the predators out there, and you hope they can battle the battles worth battling out there. And then you never want to raise another child again, because to be a monster so your kid survives is devastating. Because look out there in the world. It's very dangerous. If they don't have what it takes, they won't survive cancer, disease, or chronic illness, and they could be food for a predator. So now I understand what parenting is. I could do it because you saw what I was like 5 years ago. I was pretty harsh. I've calmed down, but I don't allow too much people to trigger me for me to bring out the harshness in me to control my boundaries. But I can fucking be a parent and get that kid. There was a kid that I went to a birthday party, and I figured out what kind of present besides like a video game or a toy, right, that you know is going to end up somewhere in the basement. So I'm like, I bought the kid multiplication tables and posters of it. I bought the kid a map of the U.S. I bought the kid the periodic tables of elements. I bought the kids all this stuff, and I was, and then I had like all these dream boards that I wanted them to do, and I'm like, this is not my kid. Does this kid have the capacity to want to learn the elements in the periodic tables, want to learn the multiplication tables, want to learn all the capitals of the United States? And would they be committed? Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. But then you can take to a certain point, but then how do you get them to understand? Like, you can't parent somebody else's child. Okay, you don't know what their predispositions are. So I try I tried to maybe offer some of my, some of my gifts as far as academics, memorizing things, learning certain things, learning the basics, memorizing the basics. But that's not for me to do to anybody else. That's not for me to impose intellectual potential in somebody else who may not have the infrastructure in their body, mind, or spirit, or even in their family to maintain that. Okay? And so, I could be a parent for my own kid. Absolutely. But I would want to be a whole person before that would happen. Because they got to have a relatively whole parent who has released her demons and all that trauma. So when she has a kid, that kid doesn't have too much to come back from. But when you have a kid on top of a lot of trauma, that's a lot to come back from. And academics is going to be the furthest thing from their mind. Just surviving their own predisposed issues and surviving their family is what they're in for. Now I understand what parenting is. I could do it, but I don't want to do it. Not in this world. Not ever, really. Parents out there, yeah, most of them do not have what it takes, because you really have to be a monster to make sure your kid survives the monsters out there. And it also means the monsters in their body, what they inherited from you. If they can survive you, they will have an issue surviving the world, because I'll tell you, parents want to be friends. And I get it. You don't want to make your kid hate you and then they run away and then they're like, why did you do it? So parents are kind of fucked right now. The kids have their parents' predisposed issues. The system won't allow you to come down too hard on them because maybe you let them watch all these horror movies. Maybe you let them watch violence. Maybe they have video games. And if they're watching video games that are violent, they're watching movies that are violent, they're watching stuff on Facebook that's violent, and then you come down on them so hard, you can turn them into a serial killer. You can turn them into an aggressive bully. That's why the system does not want you to come down on these kids anymore the way we did back then, because now violence is prolific. Sexuality is prolific. Turn people into sexual predators when you come down so hard on them and they have exposure to so many different things on the internet. So that's why now parents are like, okay, I can only reason with you, intellectualize, but that's about it. You can't put your hands on your kid. You can't force them to get something. You can't play those games because you will develop a monster because you don't know what you're doing. Scientists know. And again, that's why my parents did not show me any violent movies while they were programming me to be whatever they wanted me to be. Because then you turn me into a fucking serial killer. Okay? You got to understand the imagery is what programs people, and then that kinetic activity of negative reinforcement, those two things connect. And then you develop someone that is deadly to society. That's why you have to be very careful what you show your children on the internet and on TV. But do parents have that kind of power nowadays? No. Their kids watch whatever they want to watch. That's it. That's why we didn't have cable in our house. That's why we did not have cable in our house. We only had Channel 2, Channel 4, 5, and 7, Channel 9, and Channel 13. And so, yeah. So if they can survive you, they will have an issue surviving in this world. When your kids love you, not hate you, they will have a difficult time dealing with hardship. But then the double-edged sword is you come down too hard, your child could cry abuse, and then the system would be correct because you're not trained to behavior modify your child in an aggressive monster way. And so then you have to let them get away with everything and hope. And then when that happens, will they survive the future? We will see. With the amount of violence out there, with the amount of sexuality out there, the amount of bullies out there, these kids, man, and you can't come down too hard on them because it'll make them even worse, more intolerant. And so I don't know how these parents are going to do it. I don't know. Because either way you go, you could develop a monster. Because everything starts from the beginning. When they're 1 year old, 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old. And again, when that kid is watching video games and they already have violent predispositions and their parent may come down hard on them on some level, then again, yes, you will get the Richard Ramirez. You will get all the serial killer types and they get triggered. That's why parenting is so fucking difficult in the society now. That's why it's not optimal to have a kid right now, because do you have what it takes to really make sure they don't turn into something that will be deadly to not only you and themselves, but also to society? Oh, I get it. I understand now my upbringing. Oh, I fucking get it. And so humans have lost touch with themselves. And that's why cannabis is so prolific. It desensitizes people. And then they live in an alternate reality of no pain. And everything's about love, right? All about love, 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 love. And they're all having sex with everybody and doing all these drugs and alcohol. And everybody's having a good time. And then some people don't wake up from all that love and all that fun and all that desensitization. And then they start falling apart. Okay, so why is cannabis so prolific? It desensitizes people. And they live in an alternate reality of no pain. Even when they inflict pain, they don't understand it because they don't feel it. People don't feel it. Not only is it easier for them to be controlled, but they have no trouble following orders, even when the orders are deadly. And it's very difficult to ask questions when you're under the influence. You'll just follow the crowd and follow orders. That's how the system was able to control you and your family. But it's not just cannabis, also prescription drugs, painkillers, and detoxes and diets. When you fail to see the pain of your body alive, death is welcome. Death is sold. Death is familiar. And that's those who are resisting me. They don't want to feel the pain of life. And they think life is deadly. You see how that, the conundrum, the irony of that? I'm promoting life. You need food, and you need to activate your immune system. and those who are actively resisting me do not want to live because they have been traumatized so much. They don't want to remember or even feel what it was like. They don't want to revisit any of that. And that's what the whole J world does. You revisit all the trauma and you release the trauma. You feed your body, release the trauma. That's why I have that whole thing about, can you imagine a refeeding clinic opening up its doors down the street? You walk in with your identification to make an appointment with a general practitioner. And then you tell them every single issue you've ever had. You tell them all the issues your parents may have had. You tell them all the trauma you went through the last however many years. You give them everything in your history you can think of, everything. What drugs you did, what supplements you've done, what kind of surgeries you went under. Like, you tell them everything. You tell them where you traveled to. You tell them your whole fucking life. Okay? Then the general practitioners develops a report and then brings in different professionals relative to the issues a person has to discuss different ways of dealing with something going through a release process. So when you've been brutalized by somebody, when you've had to take so many psychedelic drugs, when you've had all of these things going on in your world, when you are releasing those demons, will you be a danger to someone? Will you be a danger to yourself? Will you be a danger to society during that release process? And so that's when all the psychiatrists, psychologists, all the different specialists around everything that you've ever done comes in and says, okay, is this a candidate for a person to go through this type of stage 1 release process? So maybe there's a stage 1 release process, stage 2 release process, stage 3 release process. And so stage 1 is where you have someone on call so they can help you through stuff. Stage 2 could be like maybe you have a heart attack, stroke issues in your world. Stage 3 means that you've been brutalized by somebody and you've done so many drugs that were deadly and made you deadly. And does the system have the infrastructure to help you release those demons in this stage 3 process? Okay? And so, yeah, I mean, I'm developing a business model for those that, for the system later on down the road, when they have the infrastructure, when they have the buy-in, somebody has to lay down the groundwork, right? You can't just say, okay, everybody now feel pain, right? You have to really back it up with science. You have to back it up with the food supply. You have to back it up with your conviction to promote life and longevity and, yeah, immortality. But the medical system is not going to be up and say, okay, we're going to now reverse everything we ever did. No, the groundwork has to be laid, infrastructure put in, and a buy-in. And when I have one person in my world that signed that petition, one person that I know of, the buy-in isn't there yet. And that's fine. But that's how evolution starts. It starts from a very small little fucking cell, a small idea, a small thought process, and then it evolves. It will take a life of its own at some point. I know it will. When you get tired of watching your friends and family die in the system, and some of you have the capacity to release the demons and eat food and rest and get away from all your different social capital. So what kind of foods do you need to focus on? What kind of symptoms are going to be expected right off the get-go? When to stop taking the J juice? When you start getting constipated. And that's when I realized how to pull out the fucking shit out of my ass. When I did so much J juice, it cured me, yes. But it also cured the poop in my system, so I had to pull everything out. And when I got off the J juice and started drinking milk and eating other stuff, then it was regular again. But when we switched from the pink salt to the white salt, people had to deal with that constipation again. They were getting pissed off at me. Why did you change? Well, because yes, you will see how strong white salt is versus pink salt. And it can cure you faster. And it tastes better when you're drinking the juice. But it cures you faster. But you don't want to be cured. Not in a dynamic environment. Not when you hold so many demons within. And so then we got off the J juice. But you saw the different levels of strength. The pink salt, not as strong as the white salt. But the white salt fucking tastes better. But then you got away from the J juice. Okay, you got away from the J juice and you ate food. You ate food, released the demons with my method. And then you had to sit with all of your trauma and release those demons. You had to face all the demons. That's what I did. I remember one time my husband pissed me off and triggered me. And I got so mad I threw a hanger at the wall. That was me releasing demons. Some people will throw a TV out the window. Some people will go and rip apart their house because they're so angry. They're releasing that monster within. And so the system is going to have to then figure out how they're going to control that monster as it's releasing. That's why this is not going to be mainstream, because most people have been under so much trauma and so much violence that for them to release those demons, they would have to be monitored by authority. When you have 300 million people who've been brutalized by the system, by their friends or family, their mom, their dad, whatever, and now you want them to open up the Pandora's box and release the demons, now look at your society. Look what's going on. You don't even need the fucking J-world to do that. You just change the climate, people's demons are being released right now. They're pissed off. They're doing violent acts. They're doing high-speed chases, right? People are releasing demons and they don't survive them because they're not being managed correctly. But that's the chaos in your society when you have so much trauma in the society, in the community, and you change the environment. You make it more ionic, just like the J-world. And then people's demons are coming out. And then you want to stay home more than not. You want to stay home, stay safe, be around people you can relatively trust. But even then, that's too much sometimes. And so you stay on your own most of the time. Because now you know what the world is for what it is. You know what the world is really. People have so many demons lurking and trapped in their body, and they don't want to face them. And then when I'm opening up Pandora's box strategically, not just like, hey, here, and tell you what to expect, people can't even handle that. When they're going to the doctors because the environment changed and they have a diagnosable condition and they were told that they will die from their cancer. And I'm telling you, you don't have to die from fucking cancer. They're going to fucking hate me and love the doctor who's destroying them, telling them that they're going to die from cancer. They're going to hate me for giving them hope. But to give you hope, it's not going to be easy. Here, just take a pill. You got to work for your fucking life. You literally have to work for your goddamn life. It's not given to you for free. It was, and then you had to pay for it with death. When you were given life and given all the trappings of wealth and all the access to everything, and you're going on vacations and having a lot of friends and family and religion and politics, well, that was given to you for free. And then when the system changes, they're going to fucking make you earn your life. It's not going to be given to you for free. And if you don't want to earn your life, then you'll go into the medical system, the holistic system, to have it getting taken away systematically. Because for you to actually live in a society, you have to work. Not only just working in a factory, but you have to work your body in a way that releases the demons and makes you allowed to process the food, to distribute it to the bones, to your vital organs. But the medical holistic system gave people their lives for free. The environment was calmer. Particle acceleration was to a minimum. It was only during, different climate changes. And so you're able to get all your surgeries and all your pills and all your painkillers. And you're like, okay, everything's great. Even though you paid, whatever for your insurance. But it was like free. Now you got to fucking work for your life. Biologically. People don't want to do that. And so then you got to drink milk and cream when you get constipated, right? Or you pull the shit out, either way. If you're allergic to milk, the system will help you bring it in slowly so you can get the fat, the calcium, and the nutrition. That's why kids' bones are so brittle, because they are malnourished. And then you develop a routine, habits. When someone encounters an experience they're not familiar with or they are afraid of during the process of release and retention, there could be a 1-800 number with an on-call operator. Like we were developing that in the beginning with me and this girl, Kelly Harris. She's gone now doing whatever she's doing, but that's what we were developing, was that kind of thing where we bring this information out and then we develop a call center. But again, we're not licensed doctors or professionals to oversee someone going through a release process that develops energy they're not familiar with. And so, of course, that didn't work. But the system, the medical system, can develop that. That's the business model. I'm not a licensed doctor. I'm not an infrastructure. But I'm willing to give that idea to the doctors and the nurses out there when the time is right and they develop that infrastructure for people to be supported during their release process. And they are in either stage 1 release process, stage 2, or stage 3. Or stage 4, stage 5. And there's so many different stages, I guess, relative to how they want to deal with someone. So when someone encounters an experience they're not familiar with, or they're afraid of during the process of release and retention, there's a 1-800 number with an on-call operator 24 hours a day to help the person deal with their situation. Because either you're going to feed the energy when possible, you're going to either release the energy without substance, that means pulling your shit out, Or sometimes you don't want to drink milk or cream at the time. Or you will sleep it away. I've done that. I had to sleep and then pull out the crap later. And then wake up and do what you have to do. But there would be someone on the phone who would remind them of those options if they forget. Even talk them through whatever they need to. Oh my God. This is a lot. So what I'm saying, I'm not going to read all this. I'm basically fucking done because it's a lot to read. But I will tell you this. This is the business model. When the system is ready to take on what they have developed. But they know they have developed so much trauma in people in so many ways with all the experiments and all of that. And are they willing to face that and release those demons? Okay? And that's kind of what's going on, is that the system is not going to tackle that until there's less people. And so what do I say? Release cancer, not cure it. Feed cancer and release it, but never cure cancer because it will come back again. Okay? And so you got to be able to deal with climate change. You got to realize what I'm advocating. The J juice is not supposed to be used as a cure for anything. Yes, salt and water away from the J juice can cure things temporarily and also cause constipation. And it also can activate your immune system. Salting in, salting out. But again, people are still stuck on dehydration because they lack water. People are still stuck on the fear of feeling stuff. That's why you need a doctor. You don't need my world. But I am the balancing force of the medical holistic system. I am the balancing force of promoting life and dealing with the energy and facing demons and releasing them. And then you'll have a whole new outlook on the world, a whole new outlook on everything. And in the vampire shows, when people finally get their humanity back and they've attacked people they didn't like, they come back to my world and apologize for what they've done, how they have treated me, how they have treated the situation. They come back and apologize. I've had that happen. Some people will hold on to their animosity towards anything that's new and different. And other people will apologize. And I'll be like, hey, that's great. I understand where you came from. I understand why you hated me. I understand it all. I get it. I'm not holding any grudges. I don't want to say I forgive you because they weren't wrong at the time. They had every right to feel afraid of what I was doing. So I'm not forgiving anyone. I'm just saying, hey, I get it. Hey, let's move on. But other people, they do not have the capacity to get their humanity back. And so they'll hate everything that's different, hate anything that's new. And they will try to destroy things, but obviously you can't commit crimes. Because then you'd be no different than what you think I'm doing. And I'm not committing any crimes. But do not turn into the very thing you think people are doing. When people are an activist, they turn into the very thing they think somebody is doing to them. They become the monster, the demon, that people have to protect themselves from. And when I have to protect myself from activists who think I'm harming people, that's the irony. I got to protect myself from the activists who are actually harming people. Okay? And that's the world that you live in. That's the savior saving everybody to death. Those are the empaths that misplaced their empathic superpower. And they don't stand in the shoes of animals. They don't stand in the shoes of children. They don't stand in the shoes of their kids. They will keep loving somebody to death until that thing is sucked dry. That's the Vampire Diaries. That's the Van Helsing. And then we're in the Hunger Games. So that's all I'm going to say. I got shit to do. I'll talk to you later. Bye.